Hey there, everybody! So this past weekend, I got to go see Disney's newest remake, The Lion King, and I thought, who better to share my thoughts on the film than with you guys? As always, I have to warn you that we will be delving into some spoilers, though I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you're still trying to avoid spoilers from The Lion King, a movie that was released in 1994, hats off to you. You're way better at this whole internet thing than I am. But anyway, The Lion King. So right off the bat, I thought it was good. I thought, I enjoyed myself during it. It was certainly a faithful retelling. I think that's going to be ultimately what determines how much you like this film, because it was a very faithful reinterpretation of the original story. And I'd argue that with that there is some good and some bad. It's kind of gonna be like the theme of the review. Overall, I liked it, but again, for every element, there was a plus and a negative, really. So when it comes to the I guess accurate or faithful retelling, on the one hand, The Lion King is a fantastic movie, and the original Lion King is a fantastic movie, and to deviate much from that is going to anger people. I mean, we see that with almost every remake that Disney does. Almost any slight, subtle change they make, there's huge backlash behind it. I mean, you're seeing it right now with Mulan, with Little Mermaid. Like, any slight deviation, people lose their minds over. So with a movie as beloved as The Lion King, it does make sense to kind of play it a little bit safe and stick with what we know works. On the other hand, me personally, I don't mind a little bit of deviation here and there. Now, obviously, the major plot points are always going to be the same. You're retelling a story, but it would have been nice if things changed a little bit here and there. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is the climactic fight scene between Simba and Scar. Scar uses the exact same throw the embers in the eye move as he did in the original. Some lines and some dialogue is beat for beat the exact same. So stuff like that, I wouldn't have minded to see them take a little more risks and to deviate a little bit. And with that in mind, some of the things that did get deviated, I actually really enjoyed. In particular, I'm thinking of Be Prepared. They kind of redid and remodeled. So Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think I said his name right, did an awesome job as Scar. I loved his interpretation of Scar. But I don't know how much of a singer he is necessarily. So this worked with him, and I liked. So Be Prepared has always been kind of like a speech, and they sort of use that more. I saw some people who weren't thrilled with it. Again, it kind of depends on if you wanted some deviation or if you didn't, or how much you love the original, how much you wanted them to stick to the original. Me personally, I quite liked the deviation of Be Prepared. And the big song that they changed that I adored was The Lion Sleeps Tonight. Loved how they did that. I thought it was really like a really fun and a nice kind of remodel of what is just kind of a silly song that Timon and Pumbaa sing throughout. So again, when they did make some subtle changes, I actually didn't mind them and actually quite enjoyed them. But again, that's just my preference. The voice cast, I also thought, did a very good job throughout. I thought that Donald Glover, almost called him Childish Gambino. I thought Donald Glover did a very convincing Simba. Added, because Simba can be a tough character because you have to make him tough, but also like very vulnerable and very unsure. And I thought he did a good job of doing that. And like I said before, Chiwetel Ejiofor, again, I hope I said his name right. I thought it was a very good Scar. I love John Oliver. I thought he was awesome as Zazu. I thought Zazu was very funny throughout the whole line about his cousin thinks the woodpecker was great. Of course, how can you say anything bad about James Earl Jones as Mufasa? There's only one voice to do Mufasa, and it is James Earl Jones. The hyenas I thought were all good. Of course, Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner I thought they did a really fun job as Timon and Pumbaa. Again, these are hard characters because they're so well known, and guys like Timon and Pumbaa and Simba, they're so ingrained in our childhood memories that it is tough to add anything to them. But I thought that Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen in particular did a very good job with Timon and Pumbaa. There was a lot of riffing. From what I understand, there was a lot of improv, and it came across in the film, their relationship and the way they kind of bounced off each other, I thought meshed real well and came across as real fun. And some of the highlights of the film, honestly, I thought they were certainly the funniest part of the film, and I found myself entertained every time they were on the screen. And of course, there's one other person to talk about in the voice cast, and that is the incomparable Beyonce. So Beyonce, of course, voiced Nala in this film, and I have an interesting opinion about Nala, or about Beyonce rather. So I liked Beyonce as Nala for the most part, like 90% of the time. I liked Beyonce's Nala. I thought she added a fierceness to the character and just portrayed her well. Where my, I guess you can say, problem came was actually in Can You Feel the Love Tonight? So obviously they re-recorded a newer version of Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which had Donald Glover and Beyonce singing the lead parts. And the problem that I had was that when the song was going, in the way that it was sung, particularly by Beyonce, for me, it was Beyonce singing. It wasn't Nala singing. And I know that might sound a little confusing, but basically, and this is funny because it's kind of off the back of, I was just doing the review of Little Mermaid and just doing all the research for that. And one of the things that I came across was the original recordings when they were doing Part of Your World. And one of the great pieces of advice that Howard Ashman gives during that is you don't have to sing the song your best. You don't need all the vibratos and all that stuff. You need to sing it as the character. You need to get the vulnerabilities, like you can sing this part great and you can sing it technically perfectly, but if it doesn't have the vulnerability, if it doesn't have the character part in it, then it's not going to work. That's the kind of stuff that I felt like was missing in this interpretation of Can You Feel the Love Tonight, particularly from Beyonce, because Beyonce, she sings it immaculately. She's a fantastic singer. We all know that. But it was those runs and those riffs and things like that, they just, I don't know, they didn't feel like Nala to me. Like, again, when I was listening to it, I was hearing Beyonce. I wasn't hearing Nala. And conversely, Donald Glover, who I thought was the opposite. I thought that he was doing a good job kind of capturing Simba. He's very conflicted during the song about his feelings for Nala and whether or not he should tell her about what he believes to be his past and all that stuff. So I thought he did a very good job with that. And unfortunately, when you have one person who's like singing as the character, one person who's just belting as herself, really, the mixing wasn't really right on that either. Donald is too soft, and part of that is just Beyonce's voice is just overpowering in general, so it is hard to mix. Apparently, they didn't sing it in the same studio at the same time. They were like in different rooms, so that might have contributed to some of it. But yeah, that's the only, I guess, minor complaint I had with Beyonce's Nala is just that when she sang, it was Beyonce singing, not Nala. Now, I didn't have that problem with Spirit, though, the one that Beyonce sang that's later, because for me, at least, that wasn't Nala singing. That was Beyonce singing because it's in the background as we're looking at Simba and as Simba's running back to the Pride Land. So less of a problem with that one, and that is a good song. So less of a problem there, and more so with Can You Feel the Love Tonight? But I guess I can't beat around the bush any longer. We got to talk about the animation on this film. So again, it was being billed as the live-action Lion King, but of course it's not really live action. These aren't real animals who are in the film throughout. It's all computer generated. So what do I think of the CGI? First of all, it is, unbelievable how realistic and how good the animation is. Obviously, it was very good. Really, the first time we saw this with Jon Favreau directing in The Jungle Book, but I feel like it's even better now. And it's just, you forget sometimes that this is animated and that these aren't real animals. That's how good it is. So, and the character designs are spot on realistic. Again, when you're watching the lions, they look and act like lions. A lot of the behaviors of the animals are exactly like the behaviors of real life animals. So unbelievable job from a technical standpoint on this. Really, just immaculate. The criticism that was lobbied at this film from a lot of the critics before it got its wide release was Uncanny Valley. For those of you guys who don't know, Uncanny Valley is basically the sensation that humans get when we look at something that seems human, but that we know isn't human. Like if you look at an android or something, you have a kind of sense that that's not really human. And that was something that they said they were feeling in this film. They were feeling Uncanny Valley when they were watching the animals talk. I didn't get that, honestly. And it's funny because the people who I've talked to who saw the movie and enjoyed it also didn't get that. My brother said that it felt a little weird like the first couple minutes, but once you got past it, then it was fine. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Anyway, so yeah, so I didn't, I didn't get the Uncanny Valley feeling personally. Again, once they started talking, it looked fine to me. Now, the one criticism that I have heard that I do hear and I do sort of agree with, and some of it's just the nature of the beast, is the characters are far less expressive than they were in the original, and a lot of that has to do with the eyes, really, because in cartoons you can squash and stretch the face and make very emotive faces, and particularly the eyes can tell a lot of emotion. Here, it's a realistic animation, so the eyes are like eyes. So yeah, the emotion sometimes got lost, and I know some people said they looked like they were dead-eyed. I don't know if dead-eyed is where I would go with it, but certainly far less emotive in the face than the original. So that's something that might put some people off. Like I said, it was something that I certainly noticed. I don't know if it ruined the movie for me or anything like that, but it is something that I noticed throughout, and it led to some kind of weird things because again they're doing a realistic animation. So again, first and foremost, when you're doing realistic animation, you're aiming for different things. So yeah, but because of the realistic animation, lions for the most part can look kind of similar. So there are scenes like the scene when Simba's looking in the water and then sees Mufasa looking back at him. It gets kind of lost on you because they look almost identical. So stuff like that kind of got a little bit lost in translation. But yeah, so that's kind of how the character animation looked, at least to me, where I could see where some people might get put off by it. I didn't really get the Uncanny Valley, but in terms of the emotiveness and emotions, that I kind of understand. But like I said, for every kind of drawback with this kind of animation, I will say the atmosphere created by this more realistic animation I thought was incredible. Particularly the Elven Graveyard. The Elven Graveyard I thought was really, really good. It was it had much more of like this fearful and scary atmosphere to it, even more so than the original had. And I mean, looking at the savannah and all that stuff, and the oasis and all that, just I mean, the atmosphere looked incredible. The backgrounds looked incredible, and to think that this was all computer generated it really is mind blowing. It really is just shocking how far the medium has come. But ultimately, like I said with Aladdin, there was a couple notes that they had to hit that I think for the most part they hit. The first and foremost being the initial Circle of Life sequence. I mean, so it is almost a shot-for-shot remake of the Circle of Life. And I know I said before that I like some deviation and some risk and things like that. Look, guys, when you're dealing with a perfect scene, and I think the Circle of Life is one of those perfect scenes, why mess with it, right? I mean, so yes, it was basically a shot-for-shot remake. I had no problems with it. It absolutely should have been a shot-for-shot remake. It was really well done. And man, if you don't hear that first "nah" when the sun is coming up and don't feel chills throughout your body, then I don't know what you're doing. This movie, I guess, isn't for you. The other big one was Mufasa's death. The death of Mufasa, I thought was well done. It was it was an interesting way to kind of do it and to shoot it, and even what I thought was going to be interesting is it's coming. Obviously, it's one of the more traumatic deaths in the history of Disney, especially for younger viewers. So it's coming. You're prepared that it's coming. It was very emotional for a lot of us the first time we watched it. How is it going to hold up this time? And even though, of course, we knew it was coming, so some of the weight gets taken out because of that, I still thought it was very emotional. Just seeing a lot of the little cute Simba so sad obviously pulls at the heartstrings. But the one that got me, the moment that finally got me, is when Simba's cuddling up next to Mufasa. That hurt. So yeah, they definitely got the emotion on that. And again, those are some of the things that I thought they had to do right, and they did right. I mean, some of the other things that were great. Just Can't Wait to Be King was still awesome. Oh, Hakuna Matata, how could we forget about that? Hakuna Matata I thought was really well done. And again, really fun with the added riffs and some of the changes and things like that into it. So yeah, again, the notes that Lion King absolutely had to hit, I thought that they hit. And of course, despite some of the negative criticism that was coming out before the film from a lot of the critics, hasn't affected the box office numbers like one bit. It's just been making money hand over fist, which I mean honestly was to be expected. Lion King was one of the biggest grossing animated films of all time. Not shocking that its remake is doing that. And for those of you wondering, by the way, why Disney keeps remaking animated films, yeah, look at the numbers. That's why. Because I mean, it's a license to print money. I mean, in my little theater, I've been so used to going to films where I'm one of like 6 people in the theater. Literally, the lights had to come on while the commercials were going before the previews, so that they could tell us that it was a sold out theater and we all had to sit next to each other. We couldn't leave room. So like, I've never seen my theater more packed, and part of that is because at least where I was and on the East Coast, crazy high temperatures. So maybe people were just going to the theater to escape. But I think more of it was just because it's the Lion King, and everybody who doesn't love the Lion King and wanted to check out what it was all about. So yeah, they're definitely not hurting for money, that's for sure. It is also kind of fascinating though that it is as crazy successful as it's been when you consider the summer it's been for Disney. I mean, I guess you can consider it the summer, and really it did, kind of ran through the summer with Avengers Endgame, and then the follow up being Spider-Man. Remember, that's all Disney now. But then they also had the remake of Aladdin. They had Toy Story 4, and they had Lion King. So even if you have little kids who aren't into the Avengers or superheroes or stuff like that, I mean, still, there's a chance you were going to the movies a bunch of times. So for Lion King to be coming out at the back end, at the tail end of the summer cycle, and still doing as well as it's doing, really is, again, just a testament to how much people loved the original Lion King. So yeah, that is kind of interesting. That is the one knock I have on Disney with the remakes. Again, I've kind of accepted the remakes. Your feelings on them, I know that people have mixed feelings on them, and then they ask why they keep remaking these movies. They're out of ideas. Why can't they just be creative? Again, there's a couple of responses to that. One being that Disney has their hands in so many different things right now. They are still making like new unique movies while also doing these remakes. But also, again, like I said, they just they do make crazy money, and it's cynical to believe that that's why they're making the remakes. But when you come down to dollars and cents, I mean, Disney's a business, and the business is booming right now. So yeah, I mean, ultimately that's why they're making them. That's why they're going to continue to make them. That's why we're going to get Little Mermaid. That's why we're going to get Mulan. That's why apparently Hunchback is in the works. That's why we're getting all of these because license print money. But anyway, kind of got on a tangent there. The one comment I would have, and the one kind of I guess complaint or maybe just a change in strategy that I would have done is I wouldn't have released Aladdin and Lion King in the same, not only calendar year, but in the same season. I mean, to both do them during the summer, I thought was kind of crazy and maybe a misstep on their part. Just because those are two of your huge Renaissance movies, 2 movies that you almost don't even have to advertise. You don't have to go all out for the marketing for. Like, they're gonna sell themselves. They're gonna make hundreds of millions of dollars in their theatrical run. So like, to put them as close as they did, I thought kind of splits your efforts a little bit, splits attention somewhat, and also just pits them against one another. I mean, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're always going to be thinking about which one you liked better when you're talking about the films. I mean, we saw this kind of happen a few years ago in the animated space when Zootopia and Moana came out in the same year. Was that, almost, again, subconsciously you think about, well, which one did I like better? Which one was better? And those sorts of things. So I thought that was a bit of a misstep. And with that in mind, it's going to be interesting as we get closer to award season what happens with these films, because in particular, I'm looking at the music aspect. Obviously, Speechless was the big song, the big new song in Aladdin. Spirit was the big new song in Lion King. I think that there is a strong potential for both of them to be getting Best Original Song nominations, because on the one hand, you had Pasek and Paul write Speechless, and they've been Oscar fodder for a few years now. And on the other hand, you had Beyonce, which I feel like just for the simple fact that she might perform the song at the event is enough reason to nominate her. So I think there's a good chance both of them. We'll see what comes out of it throughout the rest of the year, but I think there is a good chance that both of them get nominated, and it'll be interesting because anytime Disney's up against itself, you wonder sometimes if that splits votes or things like that. Me personally, I think I'd be leaning towards Speechless over Spirit, just because of I have weird rules with best original songs. I like them to be like really integrated into the film. I thought that was better integrated in the movie than Spirit was, which was more of like a backing track. But again, that's just me. So that'll be interesting to see. And the other interesting thing with The Lion King when we're talking about awards is, what the heck does this movie qualify as? So again, we've been calling it the live action Lion King, but it wasn't really live action. It was, it's all computer generated. So is it an animated film? Does this kind of change the category of animated film? Like, what can this be nominated for best animated feature? So stuff like that is going to be real interesting to look at and to see if they do go that route, if they stay away. Because Lion King is one of those movies where it's not going to get nominated for best picture or anything like that, but certainly could get nominated for best animated film if it qualifies for that, just purely based on the just mastery of the animation alone. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be an interesting discussion that someone above my pay grade is going to have. But yeah, guys, I think that about wraps up my thoughts on The Lion King. Again, I thought it was a good movie. I thought, again, if you really like The Lion King, you should go see this, because I do think you'll really like this. Again, it is a very faithful retelling, and hit the camera. And ultimately, again, if you really like The Lion King, you will find things to like about this. Obviously, it's not the original Lion King. There are, the voices are different and things like that. So at the end of the day, maybe instead of if you like The Lion King, I think it might depend on what your feelings are on the remakes. If you love The Lion King and you hate the remakes, don't see it. You're just going to annoy yourself. If you want to see a completely different retelling, you're not going to get that with this. But if you want to see a different interpretation and kind of an updated version of The Lion King, well, this one should work for you. So yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this new Lion King. Also, just because I'm curious, if you guys did get to see both Aladdin and Lion King, which one did you like better? Which remake floated your boat more? Was Aladdin, which kind of deviated a little bit, took a few more chances, and was strictly live action and that sort of thing, or did you like The Lion King, which is CGI, far more faithful retelling, that sort of thing? So I'm very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on all of that. So yeah, which one, Aladdin or Lion King? And just wanted to give you guys a quick update on what's going on with the channel right now. I actually just got finished filming my newest video for the channel, so be sure to keep your eye on this space, hopefully within the next week, as that will be coming out soon. It is not the Rescues Down Under review. Remember, I do my little in-betweens in between my Disney Guy reviews. So I'm not going to quite reveal what the topic is yet. I will tell you it is a Disney that never was. It's actually a topic that was voted on by my Patreon backers. So if you want to know what it is, or if you want to get in on the fun next time and be able to kind of determine what video I'm doing and that sort of stuff, be sure to check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/JoeDisneyGuy, to get all the info on that sort of stuff. But yeah, so keep your eyes out for that. It's something that I'm actually really excited for. It was a topic I didn't know too much about before I started researching it, and but I think it's coming out pretty good. So definitely excited to be sharing that with you guys very, very soon. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to my rambling on The Lion King. Be sure to subscribe to my channel here. Also, I'm trying to push this now. I know, obviously, I upload rather a little sporadically at times. So be sure to hit the notification bell, because I think that should be able to notify you guys a little more consistently when it is I'm uploading, so that you guys don't miss any videos or uploads from me. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. If you guys haven't yet, please go check out my second channel, my gaming channel, JTTG Gaming. Currently playing through a Kingdom Hearts Let's Play on there. And again, if that's something that you're interested in, my gaming stuff, you can get way more of that content faster by checking out my Patreon page. Also, I'm trying to push to get a couple more subscribers on that channel, because I need more to get a custom URL. I'll have the link for the channel in the description down below, but I want that custom URL. So a few more subscribers and I can get that. It'll be much cleaner and much easier to plug. Like I said, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/JoeDisneyGuy, for all details with that sort of stuff. And be sure to follow me on Twitter @JoeDisneyGuy for updates with myself and the channels. And you can hear me rambling about all sorts of things, like finding out when I'm filming stuff, and finding out who has annoyed me in the theater this time, because once again, I had a run-in with rude theater patrons. So what else is new? So yeah, I think I've talked enough for one night. I think I've plugged enough stuff. So thank you guys so very much for watching, and I'll see you all real soon.